Years ago, I worked with this woman who was married. And back when I was letting everybody in my personal business, I told her about my social media and she followed my content. And she would hear the relationship advice that I would give to women, telling women to make sure they have a plan B, telling women not to be afraid to be independent, all the things, warning women about signs to look out for. And I noticed when I would post a new video, I would come to work the next day. And she felt the need to always tell me, oh, I'm so happy. I've never felt like this before. I have so much peace. I love my husband so much. He's so amazing. He's my soulmate. And, I'm not a hateful person. So I'm like, okay, well, that's good. I think that's great. People tend to think that because of the content that I make, I hate relationships, which is basically saying that the only way you could have a relationship is if it's a bad one. But anyway, and after a while, I started to be like, okay, this is a bit much. Like, she would overdo it to the point where I'm like, why does she feel the need to keep telling me this? And then I would overhear, because I'm a nosy bitch, I would overhear her telling people certain things that her husband would do. She said he would be gone for hours at a time on the weekends playing basketball. He would come home in a grumpy mood and hide away in his man cave for hours at a time. And then it dawned on me, because I have moments where I just get quiet and I don't necessarily pray or think about anything specifically. And I might ask myself, what is the reason for this? And I'll just kind of let it simmer in my mind a bit and think on it for a second. And it finally dawned on me the reason why she kept overcompensating. It's because she knew I was right. And to the person who has been heavily immersed in patriarchy, who was raised to believe that relationship automatically means happiness, that's scary. When you've been taught that your identity is to revolve around being somebody's wife or somebody's mama, it's scary for somebody to tell you, no, you're still a whole person. You deserve to have feelings where you're frustrated, where you're upset, where you're concerned about something, and those feelings are valid. She also worked part-time, little tiny hours here and there, and she would always brag about how she didn't have to work and her husband made sure everything was taken care of and she didn't have to worry about anything. And one of the biggest things that I talked about is you need to know what's going on in your finances. Don't just let that man take care of everything. You need to have your own money in case something happens. And she did make a little income, but by no means was it enough to actually support herself. She mostly just worked to go shopping or whatever. And even now today, I will still have women comment on my videos that don't apply to them, right? And they're like, well, not me. I'm so happy. Not me. Not my husband. Well, first of all, if it doesn't apply to you, why are you here? I mean, there's nothing wrong with being married or being in a relationship and watching my content. But the need to open your mouth is, why? There was this content creator. There is still this content creator. What am I saying? Her name is Kat, I believe. I love her content. And in one of her videos, she said to be happily married is to be a liar. And that stuck with me. And that really just like a target hitting the center immediately. And don't get me wrong, there are some couples who are genuinely happy. I've never caught them in a bad moment. I've never seen them look at each other sideways, never heard anybody complain. I know that man adores her and kisses the ground she walks on. So I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But what I'm saying is those types of relationships are few and far between. Because think of it this way. 50% of relationships, somewhere close to that, end up in divorce. The other percent of relationships that stay together, that doesn't mean that they're happy. I think the percentage is somewhere like, even within that 50% that still stay together, only like 20 to 25% of those are actually happy. I actually think the percentage is less than that, if I can recall what the statistic was that I had heard. But To be happily married is to be a liar, because what's the first thing that people want to tell you? Well, I've been married 25 years. Happily married. I'm happily married. We've been happily married. Happily, happily, happily. Everybody's happy, right? But the statistics, the facts, not just my opinion, not just based on my experience, not just based on the women that I've been around, and not just based on the stories that I've heard after making this content since 2009, but statistical fact. Everybody ain't walking around here happily married. It's just not so. And I'm not talking about your partner has to be perfect, because I have days where I'm a little bitchy. I'm going to tell you right now today. I'm talking about outright abuse. I'm talking about outright fraudulence. I'm talking about outright cheating. I'm talking about stuff like that. Constant, repeated disrespect. Not just a day where you get short because you're a little hangry. I'm talking about consistent disrespect. That's what's usually going on. And even if your partner isn't cheating or abusing you or being fraudulent or being consistently disrespecting you, they're ignoring you and they don't want to be around you. So they disappear for hours on end on the weekend when they should be home spending time with you. They disappear off to their man cave. And then it's your job. You are tasked with the job of keeping the kids away from daddy because daddy has had a tough day and you're never allowed to have a tough day. And this is again why I hate when people say that single people and divorced people do not give good advice. Because what I have learned from what I have seen and from the fact that I have experienced this myself, having been divorced, is that a lot of women are lying. Because I was getting hands put on me. I was getting cheated on. And even I, getting treated like sheer dirt, was telling people I was happily married. And it's part of patriarchal condition that has to sell marriage to you. It's a cult, basically. Because we can't tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you're bitter and you're angry and you're just mad because nobody wants you. Now, if you get into a marriage with somebody who is great and they actually are of value to you and they add to you and multiply and they don't subtract, that could be a great thing. But the fact is, most women aren't going to wait for that. Most women want to hurry up and be married before 25 and have kids before 30 and live this perfect life that Disney sold to us. They're going to get the first guy who's willing to do those things with them, not necessarily the guy that's going to treat them well and also do those things with them. And it's another reason why I hate when I hear content creators come on this app and they say, I hate relationship advice. I'm so sick of everybody making videos about relationships. I'm so tired of everybody talking bad about relationships. I'm so tired. But I am the product of somebody who didn't have this content growing up. I'm the product of everybody telling me that marriage is great and all relationships have hard times and marriage is what women should strive to have. And being single for the rest of your life is a bad thing. I didn't necessarily believe that, but I'm the product of nobody talking about relationships and dating. And it caused me to get into an abusive relationship because I didn't have the warning signs or anything to look out for. I didn't know what to look for. So not talking about it isn't going to save anybody. And talking about it doesn't negate the fact that there's good people out there. I think that a lot of women, like I said, are just scared to face the fact that marriage isn't going to solve your problems, and just because you have one doesn't mean that your life is going to be perfect, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be a good marriage.